Mic'd up with Jake and Kyle coming at you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon with you. Kyle Manthe as well, as we have got Fulton Caster off this week. He is on vacation, trying to catch some fish. He has bragged in text messages that he has already caught 2 fish already. And I said, fix or it didn't happen. And he showed me the world's smallest bluegill. So he's caught 2 of the smallest bluegill, smaller than my hand, but that's more than what he caught last year. So we got lots to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is a Victory Monday on this edition of Mic'd Up. And the reason why is because you don't sweep the Royals. You win the series against the Royals, but you don't sweep the Kansas City Royals. That doesn't happen. They are too good to be swept here, at least in the month of May and here in June. You don't sweep the Royals. You just take 2 of 3, and then you go about your merry way. And the Royals back in action tonight. They are down in the Sunshine State, taking on the Marlins for a 3-game series, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're going to talk some Royals here a little bit. We will get to weekend takeaways and fails. We got David Lesky coming up. We'll get to some Chiefs contract talk, plus the Chiefs dynasty. Some interesting talk about that. Lot to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, very same number, 785-272-9429. Let us know on a Fleming Place Wine and Spirits phone lines. You can check us out as well on our YouTube page. Very simple, very easy. Go to youtube.com and search Sports on 580. Hit subscribe, hit the like button. Check out all of our videos, our shorts, all of that as well. Our website, 580www.com. You can watch the show, check out all of the insights. So we will get into all of that coming up today here on Mic'd Up. But we start things off today on this Victory Monday as the Kansas City Royals this weekend. This weekend was the series that gives you hope, but also shows you that the Royals are still the bad baseball team, and the only reason to pay attention to the Kansas City Royals is for the offense and about 2 pitchers. That's about it. Lyles is actually good, but it doesn't matter if he's good this year. He's going to be back next year just because you owe him a ton of money, but once either he's terrible enough or you can get something for him, you're going to trade him next year anyway. So great. Lyles was good. Doesn't matter. He's not part of the future. Saturday, honestly, not a bad situation. Daniel Lynch, if you just look at it, gives up 5 runs, and you're like, man, gave up 5 runs. Well, he gave up really 3 earned runs, all in the first inning because Bobby Witt couldn't field a play, and then 2 runs were unearned. The offense fought. They battled hard, couldn't get over the hump. The routine for this Kansas City Royals team. But Lynch went 5 innings, K'd 7, walked just 1. He allowed 3 base runners after the first inning. That's it. 3 base runners. He had 3 singles in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th inning. So if the Royals and Bobby Witt didn't make the air, you're looking at, okay, he gave up 3 earned runs in 5 innings, kept the team in the game. So it wasn't bad. Sunday, Brady Singer shoved, and the hope here for the Royals is that Brady Singer this is the start that you hope it gets figured out. This is the start where you're like, hey, he was excellent, right? 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 Ks, 6 innings. He was pretty good. And that's back-to-back starts in which he has been pretty good. And to be frank, If you take out, and this is the earned run side of things, if you take out a rough one in 3 2/3 inning against Detroit, he's actually pitched pretty well the last couple of months. Or, excuse me, the last couple of starts. May 11th, he went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run. May 16th, 6 innings, gave up 2 earned runs. Against Washington, 5 innings, 2 earned runs. And then this one, 5 2/3 innings, gave up 0 runs. So maybe Brady Singer is now starting to figure it out. That is a huge development for the Kansas City Royals, if he can figure it out. So the Royals end up with a series loss, but they were in it every single game. One game they got it done with Singer shoved and the offense did just enough. Michael Garcia, how about that first ever home run? One game was self-inflicted wounds. Daniel Lynch pitched well enough and the defense didn't help him out. And then one game the bullpen gave up a bunch of runs after Jordan Lyles actually pitched pretty well. But the Royals right now, for me, I do not care what Jordan Lyles does, and I do not care what Zach Greinke does for this Royals team. Those two pitchers, to me, they do not factor in this year. One, because I don't know if Greinke's going to be back next year. And if he is back next year, it's still a year-by-year process with Zach Greinke. He might not want to pitch next year. But as of right now, since we don't know if Zach Greinke is going to be on the team next year, he's just there as a body and more of as, hey, you know what? That's Zach Greinke. Everybody loves Zach Greinke. If Jordan Lyles is starting on this team next year, it's just simply for the fact that the Royals don't have 5 capable starting pitchers. They don't have 5 capable starting pitchers if you are the Kansas City Royals, if Jordan Lyles is on your team. So, what I am interested most for this Royals team, and they have pitched Saturday, Sunday, and they are going today. That is what is exciting about this Royals team. This is what matters. Singer pitching well here, 5 of his last 6 starts. That is a great situation for the Kansas City Royals. Daniel Lynch pitching well, 7 Ks, 1 walk in 5 innings. That's beneficial. And then today the Royals are going to send Carlos Hernandez out there as the opener. And then assuming that Mike Myers is going to be the one to piggyback off of Carlos Hernandez. This is an important start for the Kansas City Royals. These are the guys that matter, because coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, we are going to discuss when do the Royals need to make a bold move? When do the Royals need to be, all right, for the future, we have to make something happen. And that's what the rest of this year is for the Kansas City Royals. You need to get as many innings out of, if you think Michael Myers can do it, if you think Daniel Lynch is going to be part of the future, but is Austin Cox part of that situation? Is Jackson Kowar, could he maybe be a long relief individual? He can't be a starter. Maybe he can be a long relief individual. That is what you are trying to do if you are the Kansas City Royals right now, to then figure out, do we have to end up making the bold move to get a starting pitcher? The bold move was trading Will Myers to get James Shields. That was the bold move. That was the move that was absolutely dissected on this show and other shows when it comes to the future for the Royals. They don't have enough pitching. They don't. So you're going to have to use one of your potential studs and get you pitching. I don't think the Royals are going to pay for it. I don't think John Sherman's going to open up his pocketbook. And if you do, you might not get the guy that you're wanting. but you're going to have to give up somebody good in order to get somebody who is going to help this pitching rotation get it done. So I look at what are the trade candidates that the Royals are going to potentially move to bring in some starting pitching. That's why the rest of this year is more important for guys like a Mike Myers, guys like for a Daniel Lynch. Can Carlos Hernandez be a long relieving guy? Can Austin Cox come up? Those are the pitchers that need the innings more so than Greinke and more so than Lyles. I would love for them come August and September not to pitch Jordan Lyles because we know what he is. He's a guy who stinks and he's not going to fluctuate from year to year. I know what Jordan Lyles can do. It ain't special. He's on the hook next year, but find a way, massage the IL and all that to get the guys who can they find a way to get it done on the pitching staff. That is what's so important. And that's what was actually interesting for Saturday, Sunday, and then today. Can the Royals find anybody to pitch? And if they can, then you know what needs to happen this offseason. Somebody this offseason whom is playing on a regular basis for the Kansas City Royals needs to be traded. Greinke and Lyles are going to pitch on Tuesday and Wednesday. Do not care about those days when it comes to the pitching staff. Now, the lineup, can the lineup keep producing? Can the lineup keep finding a way to score runs? Results don't mean anything when they don't involve someone for the future as the starting pitcher. When Zach Greinke takes them out, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. When Jordan Lyles takes them out, it doesn't matter if they win or lose. It really doesn't. But do the Royals win with Singer? Do the Royals win with Lynch? Do the Royals win today's game? That's what matters most for the Kansas City Royals. That's what sucks that Bubic ends up with, Tommy John surgery. That's the worst thing there to see if he could end up having a bounce back year. So that is important for the Kansas City Royals right now with their pitching staff. Some people are not going to be on board with the people that I would trade if I were the Kansas City Royals, but we will get to that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour here on this edition of Mic'd Up. We're going to talk with David Lesky coming up at the bottom of the hour, get his thoughts on the Royals, the rotation, who can be maybe part of the future for this Royals rotation, because that is what they are going to lack. The Royals, offensively, kind of are doing above average. But when Zach Greinke pitches well or Jordan Lyles pitches well, it doesn't matter. That doesn't factor into anything for me. That's why, Jordan Lyles was fantastic to start the game on Friday. Doesn't mean anything. What sucked was that Carlos Hernandez gave up a whole bunch of runs. That is the thing that matters the most for this Royals team. JJ Picollo has got so many big decisions to make at this trade deadline, but also this offseason for the Kansas City Royals. They don't have to make a big splash trade right now, but it might be happening come this offseason on what's going to jumpstart this Royals team. That is a huge, huge deal for the Kansas City Royals. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Hit us up on our Fleming Place Wine and Spirits phone lines. We will recap the weekend that was, including a star in the making on the volleyball diamond. What an effort this weekend from Nyjah Kennedy. We'll get to that next. We'll talk with David Lesky. We'll get to some Chiefs talk. A lot to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up.
WIPW Topeka FM 104.9.
What's your biggest takeaway? Give me the one big picture takeaway.
Let's get our takeaways.
Top 5 takeaways.
Weekend fail.
Weekends, takeaways, and fails for the weekend. And I'm so happy for Nyjah Kennedy and what she has been able to do in Oklahoma City. We talked to you on Friday and just how special it was for Kennedy, or beg your pardon, Thursday. She was awesome against Oklahoma. Gave up one run. Well, they beat then their next game, found a way to get it done, beat Alabama. And then yesterday, Nyjah Kennedy taking on Washington in a win or go home game. And all she does is go 7 innings, allow 1 hit, didn't walk a batter, and strike out 9 as a true freshman in the win or go home game. That means in 2 games, Nyjah Kennedy in the Women's College World Series, one against maybe the greatest softball team in the history of softball, and another team facing elimination. She has pitched 12 innings, allowed 1 earned run, 5 hits, 1 walk, and has struck out 16. That is stupid. That is just incredible. And she's starting to get a little bit of national notoriety when you make it to the stage like this. These are the headlines. The Women's College World Series has just exploded when it comes to the ratings and all of that. Right now, Stanford taking on Oklahoma again because they were in the same bracket there. They're taking on Oklahoma. They've got to beat them twice. And right now, it is the top of the 5th inning. Oklahoma is up and is up to bat. It's tied 2-2. So Stanford, Oklahoma tied 2-2 right now. And as I'm saying this, Nyjah Kennedy is coming in to pitch. They got to win this one in order to even face Oklahoma again, but she's coming in to pitch in relief of her teammate who has done well. Two runs to Oklahoma is like 0 runs to any other team. That's what I hope people understand about this. Her teammate Vodder, who by the way is also is a Kansas City native, went 4 innings, allowed 2 runs. She's got a chance to snap the now 50-game winning streak of Oklahoma and then force a decisive game. But she's now like the darling right now of the Women's College World Series. That's what's so cool about this right now, is that a freshman right here in Topeka is the talk of the Women's College World Series. It's Oklahoma and the juggernaut that they are, and then a true freshman out of Topeka in Nyjah Kennedy. I think that is so cool. And she's now coming on first, no, in the top fifth inning. They play 7 inning games. So we will see if Nyjah Kennedy can somehow close the door on Oklahoma. Now, if they let's say Oklahoma wins, well then Stanford's eliminated. Oklahoma goes to the finals, and it's a best of three. If Stanford can somehow do something that only one other team has done all year, but hasn't happened, since January or whenever the fifth game of the year, then they're going to play again right away. Boom, quick, get the field ready to go, paint all the lines again, and we're off and running. But this is just incredible what Nyjah Kennedy has done in the Women's College World Series. So impressive, and hopefully she can shut the door, and maybe the Stanford Cardinal can get a walk-off win or something like that in the bottom of the seventh inning. That would be fantastic. And she's going up against the top of the lineup. So, and how about the Oklahoma head coach, who's one of the best coaches in all of sports? She said after the game when Kennedy pitched against Oklahoma that she is the one of the hardest throwing of the ball, as well as her movement of a freshman, that she has ever seen. That's coming from the Oklahoma coach, who's basically like the Gino Auriemma of softball, or just dominates one side of the sport. So cool. Pitching right now on ESPN, and already has recorded one out, so that's pretty sweet. Coming up, we are going to talk with David Lesky. We'll get all things Royals baseball. We'll get some Chiefs discussion, a report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler about Chris Jones, when to expect an extension there. We will get to all of that coming up here on Mic'd Up. Welcome back into Mic'd Up. Jake Lamont along with Kyle Manthe with you. Little update. Our beloved superstar down in Oklahoma City just comes in and shuts the door on that Oklahoma softball offense. Runner on second, one out, and Kennedy comes in and gets a strikeout and then a little looper fly out to left field. And the Stanford Cardinal now, bottom of the fifth inning, tied up 2-2 against Oklahoma. Fun fact, Brendan just came in and told me this. I did not realize this stat. But in yesterday's game from Nyjah Kennedy, the Topeka High Trojan pitcher now for the Cardinal, freshman of the year, she didn't have a 3-ball count in a 7-inning complete game. Let me say that again. Didn't have a 3-ball count. Went 7 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, obviously, if you don't get to a 3-ball count, let alone 4 balls, and struck out 9. Didn't the highest number on the balls that the umpire had on his little clicker thingy was 2. That's stupid. Like, that's absurd. I don't think I've ever even heard of that. And in fact, we're going to see if our baseball expert, our baseball savant, if you will, David Lesky from Inside the Crown. Very simple, very easy. Go to Google and type in Inside the Crown. It'll pop up. Sign up for it if you want to get your Royals baseball. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with us as always. But do you watch any like the College World Series, the Women's College World Series? I know you're a big Diamond Sports guy, but I know you focus so much on the Royals. Do you ever watch any of this stuff?
Yeah, no, I love all of it. Honestly, I mean, there's only so much time in a day, especially
Correct.
once you have a kid. But yeah, College World Series is great. Women's College World Series is great. I really like, at least on the men's side, specifically the regionals. I think are some of the best action you'll find. I don't know. I wonder if a little bit if they get a little worn down by the time they get to the actual the final 8, whatever. I'm blanking on how they just what the word is they use to describe it, but yeah, it's great action. It's quality baseball, all that good stuff.
Have you ever heard of that stat? The pitcher for Stanford, a Topeka High graduate, just last year. I don't know if you know this, but she mowed down everybody here in Topeka and in the state of Kansas, back-to-back 6A softball champs, Topeka High Trojans. She didn't have a 3-ball count in a 7-inning game. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's bonkers. No, I have not heard of that. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I would not be surprised to find out it's happened regularly in a high school game because, generally if you are that good, there may be 1 or 2 players near your level. But once you get to college, I mean, you're with peers. And so I've never heard of that. I'm sure it's happened. I guess I'm not sure it's happened, but it's crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of fun here in Topeka following the young Topeka High product down in Oklahoma City. Let's get to some Royals baseball. On Friday, we discussed the biggest questions the rest of the year for the Kansas City Royals, because the rest of this year, wins and losses don't really mean a whole lot. What do we need to get answered? My number one question was, who is available to trade at the trade deadline, and what does JJ Piccolo do? Because I think that is important. And then my second biggest question going the rest of this year is, do they find somebody other than Singer or Lynch in the franchise or in the minors or wherever that they think can be a competent pitcher going forward? What would be the questions that you would like, that you think are the ones that need to be answered the rest of this season going into 2024?
Yeah, so the trade question is interesting because that's super important, but also they don't have a signature piece to deal, right? So, you look at what the Nationals did last year when they traded Juan Soto and they got back a ton of talent. We saw a lot of it here this past. I think that they really remade their system in a big way, and we didn't even see the probably the best player who they got, James Wood, who's still in the minors. But the Royals don't have a Juan Soto. They don't. We a lot of people talk about how well the White Sox weren't bad and they tore it down when they traded Sale and all of them. The Royals don't have what the White Sox traded back then, and so yeah, the deadline's important because I think that you get to winning by getting people back for Aroldis Chapman, for Scott Barlow, for Nicky Lopez, even, who maybe exceed expectations. And maybe it's because you scouted really well, or maybe it's because you got a lower level player and you developed them really well. I don't know. But a lot of, look at the Astros. Yordan Alvarez was acquired for Josh Fields. If you're wondering who Josh Fields is, you're not alone. Many people are wondering who Josh Fields is. He's a middle reliever, or he was. I don't even think he's in the game anymore. So, the trades are important, but I think what's more important long term, because they don't have that bell cow to bring in a huge piece, I think what's more important is your second point, and maybe not even that necessarily, but what can this pitching development staff do to find that third or fourth piece? And right now, let's be honest, we're not sure if Brady Singer is the first piece. We're not sure if Daniel Lynch is the second piece. So those might be the biggest questions. How did those two finish the season? If they finish the year and they say, hey, we've got our number 2 and number 4 starter, whatever order, doesn't matter, for the next 3 years, okay, that's a start. And then it goes on to the second point. But the pitching development and the way that Brian Sweeney, Zach Bove, and Mitch Stetter and the rest of them work with guys to make them better, I think that's the biggest question. And it's funny, if you look at the last 30 days on Fangraphs, you can sort by that. The Royals have the 14th best ERA, the 8th best strikeout rate, and the 4th best fielding independent pitching in those last 30 days. That's, they're 18 and 41, and you go, this is terrible, this season's nothing. That stat, those 3 stats together make you go, okay, maybe there's progress. Maybe this isn't as bad as it seems. Maybe it's okay. If these guys, if it takes them a month with this group of pitchers, what could it do if there's better pitchers? So that, I guess, it all kind of rolls into one. So it's hard to say what's more important than the other. But that pitching development in one way or another, and then it can also tie into the trade deadline. Can the Royals get? I'm blanking on any names right now, of course, but like the Diamondbacks could use relief help. The Rangers could really use relief help. Could they get a starting pitcher for 2024 in a trade for Aroldis Chapman? Maybe. And if you trust the development system, which the Royals have given no reason to trust the development system for the last decade, more than that actually, then but if you start to trust Sweeney and all them, then you start to feel okay. You really do. And I think those are the biggest questions. And they all, like I said, they all roll into one for me.
When it comes, you brought up those pitching numbers, and those are competitive pitching numbers, right? The old adage is, okay, you lose big, then you lose small, and then you win, and then you win big. And right now they're losing big, and then you hope that they can be competitive next year. So,
but you know what? Real quick, sorry to interrupt. They're kind of losing small right now. They're losing the sheer number of games they lose are huge, obviously. But I've noted this a couple of times. The loss on Friday, 7-2, it was the first time they'd lost by more than 4 runs in over a month. So, and I use 4 because that's the game. That's the number where you don't have to score any runs before the tying run comes to plate in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
They're in like every game. And even Friday, they were up in the eighth.
The 8th inning. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, this team, it's such a weird team because the record is horrendous, but they're in every single game. And I also wrote this morning, they've had 1 7-game losing streak, 2 4-game losing streaks, and then a bunch of 3-gamers. They don't seem to go on these. It's just such a weird, collection of numbers with this club. So, I think they may be somewhere in between the losing big and losing well, I guess. Sorry for that.
No, and that's fine. And that's fine. But that brings up, kind of my question here. Like, the offense is kind of producing a little bit, and they're in all the games. Like the 2 of the 3 games. If Bobby Witt doesn't make an error, who knows what happens in that game? You're in the 8th. So the games are kind of the close ones. At some point in time, there's not good enough pitching to come up through the Royals system. So then it becomes to me, when does JJ Picollo make the bold move? You got to do something. And the bold move for the Royals was trading Will Myers. That was the bold move. And you probably dissected it back then. We did as well. Wow, you're only getting 2 years for James Shields compared to who knows for the minor league baseball player of the year and Will Myers. I mean, it was, you were either on one side or the other and heels were dug in, but that was the bold move. At some point in time, there's not good enough pitching in the free agent market that the Royals are even going to be remotely in the opportunity for, because they don't have the money. And right now, John Sherman doesn't look like he's going to pay for it, but who knows? Maybe he will. So you're going to have to get it somewhere else. So I'm wondering, you said there's no, pieces to trade. Could Vinny Pasquantino get you a James Shields? Could, a Nick Prado? Could Bobby Witt Jr.? Like, is there somebody that could, and you have to go all in when it comes to that? Is that move now? Is it this offseason? Is it, do you think they'll never make that move because they don't have anybody in the pitching staff coming up? I'm not trusting Myers or Austin Cox or those guys. So I'm wondering when they got to actually go for it.
Yeah. No, and I think that one name I want to mention, Anthony Veneziano in AAA. He's probably their, I don't think he's the best pitching prospect, but he's the closest. And I think he could be, I think he has a chance to be a good big leaguer. We don't know yet. He just got promoted. He's only made 3 starts in AAA. His best one was yesterday.
Real quick, do you think he makes his major league debut then this year?
Yeah, I do, because they just need people. Like,
well, they need to find out if this kid can do it for next year.
Yeah, and he's got to be protected for the Rule 5 also. And at this point, he would absolutely go, because he's, by next year he'll be big league ready for sure. And so you're going to protect him anyway. I would not be surprised if he makes 3 starts in September. That sort of thing. Sort of like we saw from Heasley in 2021, I guess it was. Yeah. Hopefully the results are better, but I mean, the same general idea there. So the other thing, this is a really interesting offseason, because it sounds like there's going to be a vote for the stadium in April. I would be very surprised if the Royals have a vote for a downtown stadium on April, whatever it is, and don't spend some money this winter. Doesn't have to be as a free agent, obviously. I mean, you can spend money in a trade. You can bring in players, and really they have. I'd be surprised if they don't do something that will excite the fan base, because they need to get the fan base rallied. So they may spend some money this winter, first of all, but even if they do that, they probably still need to make the trade that hurts. My guess is that of this group of players, the one guaranteed to go is MJ Melendez. From everything you hear, I mean, they say it publicly without saying it. We've talked with these players about a contract extension. Never Melendez. And I don't think it's because they don't like him. I think it's because of his agent, Scott Boras. So my guess is he's the guy to go. The problem is he's not. He's not
playing.
Flashes.
Yeah.
Well, he looks good at times, and he hits the ball hard, and then he takes ugly swings, and then he misplays the ball, and all that. So he, to me, is an off-season trade. The only guy I think who is a mid-season trade who would actually bring back the right value would be Pasquantino at this point. And I don't see it. I think they're going to get a deal done with him. And I think that they need to find somebody to build the offense around. And yeah, he's struggling right now. I have that theory that I think part of why he's struggling is because they're negotiating and it's distracting him. But I don't think they move him. Prado, yeah, they could absolutely trade him. Probably should. I don't know. The problem is the track record's not there yet. So is it going to be there by July 31st, or do they have to wait for the offseason on him? I don't know. And then Witt, kind of the same thing. I don't think you're getting back enough for Bobby Witt Jr. at the trade deadline this year. I think that it's just not worth it. And with 4 years of control, the value doesn't go down in December or even next July or even 2 Julys. So I think Melendez gets moved, and it might be this winter. But I don't know. I still think the big move is you get Singer on track and move him, which is totally backwards thinking how much pitching they need. But he's the guy who's going to bring back the most. If he's, with what we saw from him yesterday is back to where he was. He's the guy who brings back the most.
And he's actually pitched, semi decent the last 5 of the last 6 starts. I think we lost Dave. Dave, you still there? No, but we'll try to get Dave back on real quick. See if we can't finish up our interview with David Lesky here on Inside the Crown on our Fleming Place Wine and Spirits phone line. Always enjoy talking with Dave on all things baseball, and that's interesting with Brady Singer. And it makes sense to if this is for Brady Singer, because Brady's only got 2 more years after this year when it comes to the cheap years, because he started in 2020. So that's understandable. I completely I understand that. Dave, when it comes to Vinny Pasquantino, Nick Prado, they play the same position. I know, Prado plays an elite first base. I don't think Vinny's terrible at first base.
No.
Prado can play left field. So maybe is that the reason why that you keep both of them, is that he can play a competent left field?
Maybe. So that only works for, and I mean, look, prospects fail all the time, but you've got Tyler Gentry knocking on the door. He hasn't had a great year, but I think he's going to be a big leaguer. Gavin Cross, also not a great year, but once he gets going, he's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you think you have a center fielder between Isbell and Waters, whichever one it is. So I don't necessarily think Prado's a long-term left field solution, but I think it works in the interim. I don't know, but and that's part of why I think you trade Melendez also, because he's not a good right fielder, and you've got guys who can replace him. But I don't know how they play that out. It's working right now because they don't have other options, and they can move some guys around and rotate a little bit. But if things work out the way they hope it will, it's not going to work for much longer.
Is Drew Waters the hope in center field because of the tools that he brings? Plus, he still has got 4 more years after this year. No, did it count? 5 more years. Yeah, 5 more years. Yeah. Because last year
he's on the IL. Yeah, he'll get a full year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So is that the hope? I think that's so important. If they can find their center fielder, I really hope. I think if you ask JJ Piccolo, they want Drew Waters to be the guy, and then they don't have to worry about center field.
Yeah. I think he's the hope. They also have Diego Hernandez. We've completely forgotten about him. He had a really good year last year, got added to the 40-man this year to be protected from the Rule 5, and then hurt his shoulder in like his 3rd inning of spring training. And he's been on the 60-day. I don't know his status. At the time, they said it was a 3 to 4 month injury, so that was early March. I mean, it's 3 months. Now we're getting, 4 months is next month. So hopefully he comes back. They've got some options. I mean, Gavin Cross is playing center field too. I don't think he's going to stick there long term. But I mean, the hope right now is Drew Waters, but they're not without talent up the middle. So and Michael Garcia, we also have forgotten this. We talked about him getting some work in center field in spring training. He played a couple games there. I didn't get to see him. They were not televised, and I wasn't there. So I have to go by what people said. But people who saw him said he looked pretty natural out there. So that's not surprising. I mean, Waters is their number one choice. I mean, or maybe Isbell. I mean, Isbell has been a tremendous defender. So if they can build the offense that allows Isbell to bat 9th, I think they're okay with that too. If it doesn't work out fully with Waters, or if they say, look, Waters is our left fielder, Isbell's our center fielder. We have great defense. We can afford to keep or Waters in right or whatever. We can afford to put Prado in a corner or Melendez in a corner and not have it hurt because we've got 2 elite defenders. I think that they have a number of combinations that work, and I think they're kind of okay with any of them.
All righty, last two for the road. What are the odds? Give me a percentage that the Royals lose 100 games.
At this point, 65%.
Oh, wow. You really think they're going to lose 100 then?
Well, look, what do they have to do? It's 44 and 59 the rest of the way just to get to 62 wins, or 45 and 58 to 63 wins. And that's a tough ask for a team that's only won 18 of 59. It's hard to see it.
So are we looking at the worst record in Royals history at 106?
Yeah, I think so. But look, again, this team has been competitive. It would not surprise me in the least if they run off 12, 15, and all of a sudden it's back to maybe it's 98 losses. So that's why I'm only at 65%. I think there's a 35% is a lot. That's a big chance that they don't. So
all right. Lastly, and you can just give me yes or no. If they build the stadium in North Kansas City downtown, would you be in favor? Yes or no?
yes. Let me elaborate real quick, because I don't really care where it is as long as they do it right.
Okay. That makes sense. No.
I mean, I prefer downtown, but I'm fine with where it is.
I'm with you. Dave, thank you so much for the time, my friend. We appreciate it. Hopefully your little one is treating you well and fatherhood is going well. We always enjoy the time talking a little baseball with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
David Lesky, Inside the Crown. Go subscribe to it. He is fantastic when it comes to Royals baseball knowledge. Coming up, we'll give you an update on what's happening in Oklahoma City and talk Chris Jones' contract. It is hour number 2 here on Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake Lamont along with Kyle Manthe filling in for Fulton Caster. Fulton on the water, on the lake right now, doing a little fishing. He's gone the rest of this week. So we got Kyle coming in. We've got lots to get to this hour. We're going to talk about some potential trade candidates for the Kansas City Royals. Also, everyone loves the list, and we will get to Chris Jones and his contract. But right now, a dandy in Oklahoma City and Stanford and Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series. It is the bottom of the 6th. Stanford has runners on first and second with 1 out, and they lined out to short. Oh, almost the go-ahead run, but instead, Oklahoma and Stanford tied at 2. Nigeri Kennedy has come in relief and has thrown 2 innings and has struck out 4 of the 6 batters she has faced. She is now becoming the darling of the Women's College World Series. National writers are even now starting to get involved since this is the national semifinals. The winner of this series, technically Stanford have to beat Oklahoma twice, goes to the Women's College World Series final. But Nicole Arbach, who is a national reporter for The Athletic, tweeted out, "If you're not watching Nigeri Kennedy pitch, you are missing out." So she is taking the softball and sports world by storm here for the Stanford Cardinal, just a freshman down in Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma does what they always do, it seems like, get a big out when they need to, and they strand the runners at first and second with 1 out. They get a line out and a strikeout. So we go to the top of the 7th inning, tied up at 2. If Stanford were to somehow beat the Death Star, that is the Sooner softball team, they would play again. I think it's like 30 minutes later, redo the field, do all that kind of stuff, repaint the lines. And then they're just going to fire them all back out there and say, do it again. So that's what's going to happen. And then the evening match is Florida State, who right now doesn't have a loss. If they win, they would go to the finals. If Tennessee beats Florida State, then Tennessee would have to win twice. So how cool is this? The Topeka product, Nigeri Kennedy, is taking the world by storm. Pretty cool. It really, really is. Let us know your thoughts today on our text line. 785-272-9429. Go to our YouTube page, hit subscribe. Very simple, very easy. Go to YouTube and then go to Sports on 580, Sports on 580, easily to get to. Some other news happening. Norma Clark, as many people, including the NFL, has tweeted out and found out that Norma Clark, the matriarch of the Chiefs, she was Lamar Hunt's wife. For 70 years, she's been involved with with the Chiefs. She passed away yesterday. So thoughts going to the Chiefs and the Chiefs Kingdom for Norma Clark passing away. That would be a lot like when Muriel Kaufman passed away for the Royals. When Ewing Kaufman's wife, Muriel, ended up passing away. That was a big deal then. So Norma Clark, the mother of Clark Hunt, Norma Hunt, the late wife of Lamar Hunt. So Norma Hunt passing away this weekend. We're going to stay with the Chiefs because there was some news this weekend coming from ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler. And why is this a big deal? Well, Jeremy Fowler has kind of been in on the ins when it comes to the Chiefs, as well as he was part of the Chris Jones extension the first time. But this is according to Jeremy Fowler, ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler, on SportsCenter this weekend, reported that Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones could receive a multi-year contract extension soon. Now, The reason I wonder if it is soon is for another domino to fall. The Chiefs have been linked to DeAndre Hopkins. He has mentioned that he'd like to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. In order to get DeAndre Hopkins on the Chiefs are going to have to move around some money. And the best way to move around some money is through either one, Chris Jones, or two, Patrick Mahomes. And right now, they've already moved some money around for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think they want to do any more. So what does this mean if Jeremy Fowler says that they could get a multi-year contract extension soon? What does that mean? Well, it means maybe nothing, because the Chiefs were going to talk with Chris Jones and his agent after the draft, after OTAs. That is when his last contract ended up being signed. So this might just mean nothing, that, hey, you know what? Chris Jones going to get a contract extension. He ended up getting that contract back in 2020. And it was early July. Well, mid-July, before training camp. That, to me, is when the deadline is. It's going to be training camp. If Chris Jones doesn't have a deal done by training camp, then I think we are in discussion of what's going to end up happening. So this is news because Jeremy Fowler is plugged in. He's been plugged in with Chris Jones in his camp. But a contract extension soon, to me, when I hear the word soon, I think a week. I think if there's a contract extension done with Chris Jones, it'll be done by June 12th. If it's done by June 12th, then that means they got cap space opening up. Why all of a sudden early June instead of late June? Is this something that the Chiefs are talking with DeAndre Hopkins and saying, hey, here's the number. What are you thinking? So then you got to go to Chris Jones and say this. Otherwise, to me, the contract for Chris Jones timing is not that big of a deal when they announce it. It really isn't. Because he's already under the cap. This is the last year of his deal. It doesn't matter. They don't have to restructure it this year. That's the interesting thing, too, is how do they go about it? That's what we talked about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, is that you don't have to lower Chris Jones' cap hit this year for this year's purpose. You don't. It's already on the books at $28 million. They're under the cap with a $28 million cap hit with Chris Jones. You don't have to do anything for this year. You could have them play out $28 million on the cap this year and the Chiefs are fine. Then next year can be the low year. $28 million cap hit this year. And then in 2024, his cap hit can be like $10 million. So why are they doing the cap? Why would the extension, be rushed? And if we're hearing it this soon with somebody like DeAndre Hopkins out there, they don't have to make it. It's not like last year where, they got to keep, $18 million worth of cap space for Orlando Brown because he's going to play on the franchise tag because his number wasn't included because he wasn't under contract. You don't have to worry about somebody else. The only reason you lower the cap hit this year for Chris Jones and the Chiefs is because you want to go sign somebody else. You don't have to lower the cap hit this year. Next year, perfect. Have him play on this year, call it good, sign the extension. It's $10 million next year. Then you can go out and spend money next year after this season and go out and do what you need to do. But they shouldn't, in my opinion, touch this year's cap hit with Chris Jones and make it substantially lower like most people do. Most people, when you sign that extension, it's a super low cap hit 1 year, and then the next year's it balloons up. It's $7-8 million this year, and then it'll go to 23, 24, 25, whatever it is for Chris Jones. You don't need to do that this year unless you're bringing in somebody else. So if it happens within a week, that tells me the Chiefs are trying to clear up space. If they're trying to get it done quickly, then I think that there is some smoke to them bringing in somebody with this. Oh, well, we're going to end up signing Chris Jones relatively quickly or soon, according to Jeremy Fowler. For the right number, I would bring in DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm not going to overpay for DeAndre Hopkins. And why is Hopkins waiting? He's obviously waiting at this point in time for something to happen. The Bills just ended up signing, who was it? They just signed another pass rusher. Oh, gosh. Who did the Bills sign? It's a 1-year deal. And to me, with the Buffalo Bills the Bills are making a late splash in free agency, agreeing to terms on former Rams pass rusher Leonard Floyd. It's a 1-year deal. He ain't going to Buffalo. All right. It's not happening. Not going to Buffalo. So where is DeAndre Hopkins going to go? If the Chiefs weren't in the mix, I think he would have already signed somewhere. But because he hasn't, and everybody was probably going after him since he's a free agent, it's not going to cost any draft capital. That's where I wonder right now, there is a decent chance that he's waiting to find out where to go, because the Chiefs they got to create the money for him, and he's not going to take $5 million and then another $10 million in incentives. That's not going to end up happening. He's not going to do that. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to this report from Jeremy Fowler about, hey, I think there could be a multi-contract extension coming soon. If it doesn't involve DeAndre Hopkins, then it's a 3-year extension for 24, 25, 26. Play it as this year. If it is a brand new contract, then it's probably a 4-year deal. And it eliminates this year. So you have a lower cap hit, and then you can go and sign somebody else. So those are the two options to me right now for the Kansas City Chiefs and for Chris Jones. I'm not worried about Chris Jones until, when does camp start? July 27th or something like that for, I think, July 27th, 25th maybe? That's when I will be worried. That's when I will be worried. Little update. Top of the 7th inning. Runners at first and second. 2 outs for Oklahoma. Kennedy gave up a hit off the wall, a double. And so right now, Oklahoma and Stanford tied at 2. 2 outs. Runners at first and second. Kennedy just got a fly out and a strikeout. So there was runners on first and second, nobody out. And she is now trying to fight back and potentially have a chance for a walk-off if Stanford can get a run. Or obviously got to get the final out here in the 7th. They play 7 innings in softball, if you were wondering. And it is the top of the 7th with Stanford, Oklahoma tied up at 2. So hopefully they can get it out here, and Stanford can find a way to get a run, and we get even more softball coming up because it would be then the winner take all. But this win for Stanford would end the Oklahoma Sooner softball team's 50-game winning streak. 50 games in a row. This would be 51. So not just it's not a moral victory because it would be an actual victory, but even if they don't make the final, let's say they play Oklahoma again and lose and get bounced, they snapped a 50-game winning streak. Like that in and of itself is pretty sweet, and it might be because of the hands of a freshman right here from Topeka. So right now it is a 2-2 count with runners at second and third. So the it's a bummer that these games are in the day, because I think if this was at night, they would be getting unbelievable numbers. I think the Women's College World Series screwed up by putting Oklahoma during the day. They should have flipped them. They needed to be playing at night. Like they should be playing at 7:30 tonight. And then this would be, I mean, the games between Stanford and Oklahoma softball wise have been just flat out awesome. Like if you love any type of competitiveness and just it's not the mainstream sport, and I think sometimes when non-mainstream sports get on television and you see the best of the best, that makes it even more exciting. It's a little bit different and you get to see something new. But that's what's happening right now at 1:22 in the afternoon. Not gonna lie to you, that should have been called strike three, but it's now full count. So we got Everyone Loves the List. Today is Mark Wahlberg's birthday. So we're gonna go with our favorite Mark Wahlberg movies. He's done a lot of them. He's not quite, like mid 90s, early 2000s Christopher Walken, where he was in every single movie ever made. Or, like Morgan Freeman, but he's in a bunch of them. We will get to that coming up as fly ball to left field. Stanford has a chance to walk it off. We'll give you the update coming up next, along with Everyone Loves the List. to get to coming up on this final hour and a half. We're going to talk with trade candidates for the Kansas City Royals. We'll get to the dynasty for the Chiefs. Is it considered one? How many Super Bowls will the Chiefs get to? And we've got overreaction, proper reaction coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. So we've got lots to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on the text line 785-272-9429. Polling Place Wine and Spirits phone lines as well. We mentioned with David Lesky, talked with Dave an hour ago about when are the Royals going to go all in? And at what point in time will they do it? Will they go all in during the trade deadline for this year? Will they do it in the offseason? And he mentions MJ Melendez. MJ Melendez, major league ready, outfielder / catcher, although his catching numbers are not great. But last year had an OPS plus of 100. This year, 85. Batting average is about the same. On base percentage, about the same. The problem is his slugging and power numbers dipping a little bit. All batting average, on base, and slug all down from last year. This year, he has 5 home runs in 54 games. I don't know that you're going to get a major league starting pitcher for MJ Melendez. You need him to be performing that of a Nick Pratto or a Vinny Pasquantino. But they're going to have to move either Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Singer, Nick Pratto, or MJ Melendez. One of those 5 guys is going to have to be traded for this team to be competitive. I don't know if you trade Bobby Witt Jr. because he truly could be a unicorn. What was interesting is Bobby Witt Jr. with his 10th homer and his 16th and 17th stolen bases last week against the Cardinals. That means he became just the 13th player in AL or NL history to record 10 plus homers and 15 plus stolen bases before June. He's the only player to ever do that before his 23rd birthday. That's where he's kind of the unicorn that you'd like to keep that unicorn. To me, for the Kansas City Royals, in which they have got to somehow find pitching. And the old adage is you draft hitting and you pay for pitching, or you have to trade for pitching. The Royals have never been able to develop starting pitching. They just haven't been able to do it. Now, new regime, new pitching coach, new pitching organization. Hopefully that is different. But to me, Nick Pratto or MJ Melendez or Vinny Pasquantino is probably your best bet to not be a Royal next year, or at some time between now and, March 1st, they won't be a Royal next year. They don't have enough good pitching coming up to be competitive. They just don't. So you got to find where your depth is and generate pitching elsewhere, which is why they traded Will Myers and they brought in James Shields. You had to get pitching elsewhere. I don't think that the Royals are going to open up the checkbook and find all of a sudden, some terrific free agent pitchers. I just don't see that happening. Now, the difference is that David Lesky says, hey, if they want to move ballparks, they got to be competitive next year. Or they actually have to make some noise. And maybe they go spend some money and go get a starting pitcher. Singer is an option to trade. Well, why would you trade one of the pitchers when needed? Because maybe you can get 2 pitchers instead. But maybe you keep Singer and you trade either Nick Pratto, because Nick Pratto and Vinny Pasquantino play the same position. They play the same position. They play first base. Why do you need 2 really, really good first basemen? You're not going to have a DH, because if Vinny Pasquantino plays first and, okay, fine, Nick Pratto's your DH and Salvador Perez is catching. But when Sal is not catching, he's going to be your DH. Could you get a starting pitcher for Nick Pratto or for Vinny Pasquantino? I don't think you're getting it for MJ Melendez. The hope then is that, okay, if we trade MJ Melendez, maybe we get someone who is just on the, the upcoming for a major league pitcher, and then you hope that the Royals' new pitching staff and Brian Sweeney and what they do is good enough, and then they can develop him into a better pitcher. Because right now, the Royals pitching staff over the last 10 games has been very good. I don't know if you know this, but it's been very good. The Royals starters, the last 2 times during the rotation, so the last 10 games, their starters, first in strikeouts per 9, first in K percentage, third in ERA, third in strikeouts to walks, and 6th in opponent's batting average. Looking at this Royals schedule, here are what they've given up run-wise. And I'm talking about earned runs. I don't care about unearned runs. For the starters, 0, 3, 0, 1, 0, 1, 3. That's what the Royals have done just the last 5 games as a starter. So the pitching has gotten better. It has gotten better. They just haven't been able to put it together with the hitting plus the bullpen, and that's why they're a team that have won 18 games. So the starting pitching has gotten better. Brady Singer has gotten better. 5 of his last 6 starts, he's allowed 2 earned runs or fewer. That's why Singer, along with Lynch, and then can they find somebody else, and then do you go buy another pitcher? Because you could end up with something like this if you are the Royals. Singer as a starter, Lynch as a starter. Maybe they find a guy, right? Maybe they bring somebody up. Maybe Myers is that guy, or maybe it is Austin Cox or somebody like that. So then you got 3. And then you trade. Maybe you trade somebody. Maybe you trade a Vinny Pasquantino. You trade a Nick Pratto. You trade a MJ Melendez. And they're able to get you something in return. Now you've got 4 pitchers. Then you actually get John Sherman to use a crowbar to open up his checkbook. And now guess what? You've got Singer. You've got Lynch. Let's say Austin Cox ends up being a reliable number 5, which is a guy who gets you a quality start every other outing. That's all they need. Then you get a trade candidate for MJ Melendez. You get another Austin Cox. Sweet. Now we got 4. You've got Singer. You've got Lynch. You've got Austin Cox. You got a guy that you traded for. And then you actually open up the checkbook and you find a way to go buy a pitcher. That's 5 starters. That is something that at least will make you competitive. That's why I think at some point in time, and I am not opposed to, David Lesky mentioned he thinks maybe that's the reason why Vinny P is struggling is because they're working on a contract. I have no problem giving Vinny Pasquantino a long-term contract. I think his bat is going to play for the next 5-6 years. Perfect. Do it. But then you got to trade somebody else. You don't have a Will Myers right now in the minor league system. Gavin Cross ain't that guy. They don't have that, because if they did, honestly, he would be up with the big club. They don't have that guy. That guy is already at the big club. It's either Nick Prado, Vinny Pasquantino. MJ Melendez is not doing well enough, but that is something that the Royals are going to have to do. Big missed opportunity by the Stanford Cardinal. They had runners at first and second, nobody out. Nobody out. And then they tried to bunt, and they bunted it up in the air, and it ended up being the easiest catch the third baseman's probably had all year. Hashtag I hate bunting. The only time I like bunting, if it's like a no doubt, there's no outs. Swing away. Swing it. So now runners at first and second with one out. Happening right now for Stanford. If they win, we will have another game. And they'd snap Oklahoma's 50-game winning streak, and Najee Kennedy would get the win. That's some epic stuff. It really, really is. Coming up next, we'll get a quick timeout right now. Heat, Nuggets. Do we have a series? We will get to that coming up next to finish up the 1 o'clock hour. Mic'd up on this Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Jacob on along with Kyle Manthe with you. Fulton caster off today, and he will be off the rest of this week. He is gone fishing. So Fulton will be back coming up on Monday. We got plenty to get to in this last hour of Mic'd Up. As always, let us know your thoughts. 272-9429 outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. Hit us up on our Floating Place Wine and Spirits phone line. Check us out on YouTube. Very simple. Go to youtube.com/sportson580. We'll get to overreaction, proper reaction, talk a little Royals. The lineup is out. They are going with the opener today with Carlos Hernandez. Right now, though, the Oklahoma Sooner offense, which is an absolute, we try to call them the Death Star, because they just destroy everything. They finally got to Nyjah Kennedy. Nyjah Kennedy took over in the 5th inning and tossed the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. So 4 straight innings, no runs. And here in the 9th, with 2 outs, runner on 1st and 3rd, and she gave up a double to right center. And so the Oklahoma Sooners are now up 4-2. Kennedy's still pitching. It's an 0-2 count. So right now, Stanford is going to need some big time luck when it comes to the offensive side. The Sooners offense is just incredible. But Nyjah Kennedy has been fantastic. So kudos to the Topeka High freshman right now. And she does get the strikeout. And so the 2 runs that score off the double by the Sooners. So hoping that the Stanford Cardinal can find a way to score 2 runs and make this even more interesting. But the Sooners, I mean, this is why, like, this is the greatest softball team of all time. Like, that's when you win 50 in a row, that is absolutely incredible. But a little update there. Also, want to give another update. You heard the Amber Alert going on right now here in Topeka. This is coming from the Kansas Amber Alert. The Topeka Police Department provided the following information earlier today. There are 4 children, Ave Riley, DeAvion Riley, Tyrell Riley, and Anilla Riley, ages 12, 10, 7, and 5, have been taken by Dontresha Thomas. The suspects are, according to the father, in imminent danger. Last seen near the 2100 block of Southeast Swigart in Topeka, traveling in an unknown direction in a silver 2009 GMC Acadia, bearing Kansas temporary license plate number C953627. Call 911 immediately if you have seen a missing child or seen the suspect. She is 5'1", last seen in the Topeka area. So once again, you are on the lookout if you are out and about. A 2009 silver GMC Acadia. It is gray with a temporary license plate. Still no updates at this time, according to the Kansas Amber Alert. So we are looking for a Dontresha Thomas, 5'1", last seen wearing a white t-shirt and gray shorts. Little update for you. So little update for you. Want to get to something that was said over the weekend by ESPN, Mike Tannenbaum, Louis Riddick. They spoke about the Kansas City Chiefs. And speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs are at the White House today, visiting the president. If you follow Patrick Mahomes on Instagram, which a few million people do, he has shown some reels, for those of you who actually know what Instagram is, some reels of the White House. So they're at the White House today. But the Chiefs, we know, have won 2 Super Bowls in 5 years as Mahomes as a starting quarterback. Been to 3. ESPN brought this up during their offseason. And Mike Tannenbaum, who is formerly a front office guy in the NFL, was asked about, is Mahomes a dynasty? Is it a dynasty? And this is what Mike Tannenbaum had to say.
Mahomes and the Chiefs currently a dynasty.
Yeah, but they are close. When we think about in the NFL, sort of like the all-time greats, Terry Bradshaw won 4, Joe Montana won 4. Obviously, there's Tom Brady with 7. So 2 is really good. It's probably already in the Hall of Fame. But to be a dynasty, probably 4. And what's really remarkable, Brian, when you think about the Chiefs, is they're ahead of plans. When we go back a year ago, they treated Tyreek Hill, really try to move some resources from offense to defense. And you look at their secondary, guys like Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, their first round of Trent McDuffie, they played a ton as a rookie, which is hard to do. That rookie class is just going to get better and better. But when you think about Kansas City overall, they should actually be better this year than last year. And that's scary because they won the Super Bowl.
I agree with him. I've been saying this from the get-go. This Chiefs team in 2023 is going to be better than the Chiefs team that won the Super Bowl. They're going to be better on the offensive line. Juwan Taylor and Donovan Smith, and even if Donovan Smith is not, elite level Donovan Smith, then I think he's going to be just as good as Orlando Brown, to be honest with you. They're going to end up being, to me, better on defense because they're going to get younger on defense with Amenahu, with Enudike Uzama, with Drew Tranquill. All those rookies that Mike Tannenbaum had to say are going to end up getting better and improving. And the wide receivers are going to get better and they are going to improve. Do I think this is a dynasty? No, I don't. You can't have a dynasty in which you don't at least win back-to-back Super Bowls. You have to win at least back-to-back Super Bowls. If you don't win back-to-back Super Bowls, there is no dynasty. That's why I have a hard time saying that the Spurs ever were a dynasty. They never won it back-to-back. They won it 3 out of 5 years, but never won it back-to-back. Now, you can argue what is a dynasty, all that kind of stuff. To me, you got to win back-to-back at minimum. That is a dynasty. So I don't think so. I don't think they're a dynasty. Now, if they win it next year, yes. That would be back-to-back Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl wins in the last 5, and you also went to a Super Bowl. That is a dynasty. But no, right now they're not. And I think you're kind of foolish if you think they're a dynasty. Sorry, Mike Tannenbaum, but I think you are. So then the next question was asked to Louis Riddick. And the answer was, can you win 4 Super Bowls? Can you win 4 Super Bowls? Because Mahomes has got 2 right now. Here are the quarterbacks that have won 4 Super Bowls. Okay? They are very few. They are Tom Brady, who has won 7. Then you have Terry Bradshaw, 4. And then Joe Montana, 4. That's still an end list. That's it. So, Patrick Mahomes, can you get to 4 Super Bowls? You are halfway there, and you are 27 years old. Here is what Louis Riddick had to say.
Yeah, I do. And I said this earlier, and I think, when you kind of think about this a little bit deeper, it takes a special kind of individual to want to sustain greatness, to sustain a high level of performance, especially after you've had some success. I don't care what field it is. I don't care what you're talking about. People tend to get lazy. People tend to, when they experience some success, whether it's just for a brief moment or let's just say for an intermediate period of time, it's kind of like, well, you know what? I've done my job. I'm good. I don't really need to chase anything any better than this. Kansas City's not wired like that. Patrick's not wired like that. Andy Reid's not wired like that. And the culture in Kansas City is such that as good as they have been, going to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2, Patrick having multiple MVPs, a $500 million contract, ownership in this team, that team, commercials, endorsement deals. This team every year approaches it with that kind of Patriot mentality that the Patriots used to during their dynastic run, which was every year's a new year. Every year now we have to defend the fact that we have climbed to the very top. And they like that. They embrace that. They want that. And I think this team truly, in the truest sense of the word, wants to be remembered as one of those types of teams that did what they needed to do in order to sustain greatness. And I think, look, that starts with the head coach. It filters down through Patrick, and the rest of this roster has bought in. And I think that's pretty cool. And that's why I think the sky's the limit for this football team.
Do I think the Chiefs can get to 4 Super Bowls? Yes. Do I think Patrick Mahomes can get to 4 Super Bowls? I do. He's halfway there. He's 27 years old. But I don't think it's a guarantee. I really, really don't. And it's not a guarantee because the NFL is very, very difficult. And I also want to point out that the great Tom Brady, for 8 years, didn't win a Super Bowl. If you had 8 years, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes then would be 35 years old. We've never seen anything like Tom Brady playing in his 40s and winning a Super Bowl. Here's what the Patriots did after their dynasty in which they won 3 of 4. 2004, they won the Super Bowl. Now, this is why I want to say how difficult it is to win 4 Super Bowls. In 2005, they lost the division. 2006, they lost in the title game. 2007, they lost in the Super Bowl. That was the year they went undefeated. 2008, Tom Brady got hurt. Bernard Pollard messed up his knee. 2009, they lost in the wild card. 2010, they lost in the division. 2011, they lost in the Super Bowl. Eli Manning again. 2012, lost in the title game. 2013, they lost in the title game. So from 2005, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, 9 years, almost a decade, they did not win the Super Bowl. That's why, to me, this is not a guarantee. Are the odds that Patrick Mahomes wins 2 Super Bowls? That's it. Because the other 2 have already been accounted for. Technically, the Super Bowls that he's already won shouldn't factor in going forward. But as Louis Riddick said, sometimes you get a little complacent. The drive is not right, the same. Now, it's different for the Kansas City Chiefs because he thinks Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are built different. But then we know that, hey, you know what? You get on a heater if you are an elite quarterback. Things can be elite. 2014, they win the Super Bowl. 2015, lost in the title game. 2016, won the Super Bowl. That was against the Falcons. 2017, they lost the Super Bowl against the Eagles. And then 2018, they won the Super Bowl against the Rams. So they won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. So you have what could happen in both instances, winning every other title in 14, 16, and 18, and then losing every other year. So do I think that the Chiefs could, and will they win 2 more Super Bowls in Patrick Mahomes' time in Kansas City? One of those questions I think does need to be asked. Is Andy Reid going to be there the entire time? If Andy Reid is going to be there the entire time, yeah, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win 2 more Super Bowls under Patrick Mahomes, and I think he gets to 4. And if you told me, Jake, would you take 2 more Super Bowls during Patrick Mahomes' career or let it play out? I would take the 2 Super Bowls. I would. I guess I'm not as aggressive and I'm not as much of a gambler, but I would take the 2 Super Bowls the rest of the way for Patrick Mahomes. Only one person has won more than 4 Super Bowls. This is the rarest of rare going on right now. But 9 straight years, throw in the injury year. If you don't want to count that because he got hurt, fine, then 8. But 9 years, they did not win a Super Bowl. That can happen. That can happen even to the greatest of all time in Tom Brady and what that franchise was. And if you think about it, look at the 3 guys who have 4 Super Bowls. The Chiefs have the recipe for it. Tom Brady won 6 with Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Brady and Belichick. Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls. He also had one of the greatest coaches in Super Bowl history. I mean, think about it. They had Chuck Noll. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. He had Terry Bradshaw. Then he had Joe Montana. Now, Terry Bradshaw, really good. I think Terry Bradshaw was helped because, he had the steel curtain defense. That kind of helps. And maybe that's the outlier because of steel curtain defense, but maybe it's not. Bill Belichick, defensive wizard. But then you look at Joe Montana. Who do you have? You had Bill Walsh, who's, the offensive mind that changed everything. So they got the recipe. You got the quarterback. You got the coach. I think 2 is very much realistic. I think 3 is getting a little greedy. That's why I would take 2. Patrick Mahomes ends his career with 4 Super Bowls. He's either the greatest quarterback of all time or the second greatest quarterback of all time, and there's no arguments. It might end up coming down to Brady versus Mahomes. Might be LeBron versus MJ. To be honest with you, that's what it might come down to. I can tell you this: the Stanford Cardinal have fallen to the Death Star that is the Oklahoma Sooners. Nyjah Kennedy gave up 2 runs in the top of the 9th. They had to play extras. Stanford did not get any runs in the bottom of the 9th. So Oklahoma heads to the Women's College World Series final. They've now won 51 games in a row. I can tell you they didn't get pushed harder by anybody else in or during this season than a freshman out of Topeka in Nyjah Kennedy. That's incredible what she was able to do. Pitched another 5 innings, so she got up to, I believe, close to 19 innings at the Women's College World Series and gave up 3 earned runs. And 3 earned runs to the Oklahoma Sooners, who are an absolute juggernaut. I mean, a juggernaut. So nothing to hang your head if you are Nyjah Kennedy. That's pretty sweet. So the Oklahoma Sooner offense, which that'll go down in history. They're going for the 3-peat. They might as well just give them the trophy because they're not going to lose. In fact, everywhere else, I believe during this stretch, they've run ruled everybody. If I'm not mistaken. If your name is not Nyjah Kennedy, they run ruled you in the Women's College World Series. Because I think their other 2 wins were, let me make sure I get this correct here. Their other 2 wins were, 9-0. They beat, they beat Tennessee 9-0 in in 5 innings. Yeah, they run ruled them. So there you go. Oklahoma beats Stanford 4-2. Coming up next, we got a little overreaction, proper reaction here on Mic'd Up. I think with David Lesky saying 65% that the Royals are going to lose 100 games. That's the highest number we've ever seen. Fulton has got a great He's kept track of everything. I know you know this because it's been a fun little thing that we're running with here. And there are two people who have ever been who have been 50%, and that's Dan at 50 and Brennan at 50. Dave Lesky said 65% today. We talked to Jesse Newell on Friday. Jesse Newell said 20%. So that is kind of an eye-opening situation of 65%.
18 and 41's not a very good start to get to not losing.
I know they got to win.
Games.
Yeah, they're not losing. You know, I wonder what their run differential is since May 1st. I really do. We should be able to figure that out here. Their run differential, like how close they've been in games. Let's see here. Since May 1st of this year, the Royals run differential. Oh, no, hit the wrong button. All right, May 2nd. Did you get it before I did?
I can tell you that in the month of May, they scored 125 runs and gave up 131 runs, which is a -6. And so far in June, they're -5. So that'd be a -11 combined since May 1st.
Since May 1st.
We'll ignore the April run differential, though.
Yeah. Because April was such a disaster and was so bad. But since that time, they have been competitive. They're 11 and 19 from May 2nd to June 4th. They're 11 and 19, but with the -11 run differential. -11 run differential. Your record should be better than 11 and 19. Your record should be about 500, to be honest with you. Maybe a game below. So they've played right now, they've played 30 games. They should be like 14 and 16 in those games instead of 11 and 19 if you're a -11 run differential. It's the good old golfing outage. You can't win the golf tournament in round 1. You can't. Can you lose the golf tournament in round 1? Easily. And the Royals fired like an 88 in round 1. They're like me on the golf course if I was playing against, even like semi-decent guys and not major leaguers. You cannot throw an 88 or you cannot shoot an 88 in round 1. You just can't do it. And that's what the Royals have got. All right, what do you got?
My overreaction, prop reaction, we'll project forward a little bit. Let's say we fast forward the next 6 or however many games, 5, however many games it takes in the NBA Finals, and the Heat come out and they're champions. Is it the most crazy, is it the most insane, lopsided basketball result champion ever? If you look back...
Are we talking just NBA?
You can include college in there too, because nothing lower than an 8 seed has ever won the tournament.
I think
and the Heat are an 8 seed, which is essentially a 16 seed, kind of, if you look at it.
In the NBA, yes, I'm with you. I think if the Heat win the NBA Finals, this is the most remarkable postseason in NBA history. An 8 seed has only made it to the finals one other time, I believe. That's it. And they didn't win. And so, and especially in this era of basketball. So, yeah, I would say this would be the most incredible NBA. I'm trying to think if Jim Valvano's team winning it, the NC State's team or the Villanova team that beat Georgetown, ended up winning the college basketball title. Overall basketball, it might. It really might, because you're an 8 seed in the NBA playoffs. They had to beat a number one. Yeah. I think overall, if you include college, I think what the Heat would do would be bigger than like Danny and the Miracles. I mean, they were a 6 seed, but considering, who they had to go through, and they're beating the best team in the league in the Nuggets. So yeah, I think that's a proper reaction.
Because you think if you're an 8 seed, if you're a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, you're safely in. You're not. I mean, maybe you were on the bubble heading into conference tournament, but you're safely in. There's a number of teams that you are better than. The Heat were like quite literally the last team to get into the playoffs. There was a chance that they were at home on the couch for the last month and a half watching, and not even trying to take into account the teams that they've beaten on the run. They're not necessarily the 2017 Warriors or anything like that, but they've beaten, if they do it, they'll have beaten 2 number 1 seeds, a number 2 seed. They won't be going up against the equivalent of a 12 seed or a 13 seed on their run. They're taking out the top dogs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I still think the Nuggets win the series. I thought it would be in 5. I didn't think I still don't know if the Heat will win it or win 2 games. But it feels like this is I thought the Heat would win game 3 or game 4. And then the Nuggets would be up. I didn't think they'd win game 2. That's what makes this a little bit more interesting, is that they won game 2. They won in Denver. And technically, if you want to go this way, if you want to say that the Heat are favored to win this thing now, that's not far-fetched, because they got home court advantage now. Like, the whole point in a 7-game series is it's not a series until someone loses a home game. Well, somebody lost a home game, and it's the Nuggets. I just think that the Heat did something. They made 19 threes in a game. That's your X factor. Can they do it again? Yes. Will they do it again? We will see. That's yeah, I like that question. Will they? Yeah. Do you like the Nuggets then? Do you think they win it in what?
I would, before the series, I would have said 5 or 6. I probably would have been a coward and said 6 because I'm scared of the Heat proving me wrong again. So I'm still pretty confident Nuggets in 6. That's what I'm feeling. But the Heat they must be magic. Eric Spoelstra must be magic.
Is he a Hall of Fame coach?
I'd say absolutely. He's probably been the best coach in the league for over the last 10 year stretch. So that probably gets you in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, he's won 2 titles. He's been to, this is now his 7th finals, because he's been twice if you count the bubble finals, which you do, but there's an asterisk. So it's 7 finals with an asterisk. Sorry, that's how I do it. Like the Dodgers, like their World Series, gigantic asterisk next to that. Oh, you won a 60-game regular season, and then you won a not even. It was a domed neutral site, with no fans. In their history books, it says they won it, but that puppy's got an asterisk next to it. Okay, and I will hear nothing else of that. That is not a legit World Series, which makes me laugh, because the Dodgers have been this just wrecking ball of wins for the last decade, and their only World Series win is a joke. It's not a real one. They should have a fake one. It should say fake World Series or COVID World Series. The finals, they played, would they play like 70 games, right? Or not quite 70.
I think it was a little over 70.
Yeah, I mean, they almost got done with the entire regular season before, mid-March 2020. So that like is a little bit more justifiable. Still a little bit
There There was no home court. It was all neutral court.
Yeah, and it was
That
just
makes it a little different.
a little different. So, but yeah, I think Spoelstra is probably a Hall of Fame coach, especially now with this run. This helps his resume more than any. If he wins it, let's say the Heat do win, yeah, guaranteed. Like has to be. Eric Spoelstra. Who would have thought that? Incredible. Coming up next, the Royals lineup is set for their season or their series opener against the Miami Marlins. We will get to that coming up next here on Mic'd Up. absolutely hate neutral site games. That's what's going to irritate me when the college football playoff, when it comes to fruition and all that, and they do the games, at neutral sites. I hate that. For non-conference games, play them at their respective schools. Play it at Coke. I know they're going to play it at Intrust. It's not the same. It's not the Roundhouse. It's not. But at least there it's in Wichita and you make it a home game. I don't want it to be in Wichita and then have a whole bunch of KU fans buy tickets and it's not as pro Wichita State environment. Playing it at T-Mobile? No, play it at Allen. I hate that. There's just certain things that grind my gears. This is one of them. Neutral site games. In football, they do it now to start the seasons. I think, Alabama played, Alabama went to Austin last year and played. That is awesome. That's so cool. Clemson this year, is it LSU? LSU's got, someone plays a big, LSU, Florida State, right? They're playing each other this year. LSU versus Florida State. And the game is in Orlando. I hate that. Play it in Tallahassee. Play it at Death Valley. Why are we playing neutral site games? That's stupid to me. One, it's more fun to play road games. The atmosphere, it's not as corporate, you know what I mean? That's why the title games are in the AFC and the NFC are way more, I think, intense because it's at home sites. It's a road game. It's a home game. Make it be a home and home. So I made this kind of analogy, right? So you've got Wichita State and KU. What this is they're playing it at the T-Mobile Center. It's like a courtship. This is a first date. All right. 1993, that's not even the past because these are two completely new people. New people in charge, new everything. The first date. So they go to get drinks. Not a meal, just sit, hang out, have some drinks, see if it's going to work. That's the T-Mobile Center. All right. Then, hey, that worked out. That was fun. Hey, how about you come back over to my place? So then you go to Allen Fieldhouse first. And then, hey, that was fun. That worked out. So then, Wichita State's like, hey, how about we come over to my place? You know what? I think that'd be fun. This is working. And then you go to Coke Arena or Intrust. They're going to do it at Intrust because Intrust holds 15,000 people. Coke is 10. So they're going to hold Intrust. Still don't like it as much, but I get it. And then it should be a year-long thing, every year thing. Hey, great. You know what? We're going to have Thanksgiving at your place, and we'll have Christmas at mine. Right? That's what it is. That's what KU and Wichita State should be. Just like K-State and Wichita State. You treat it like, the whole back and forth. One year, K-State hosts Wichita State. The other year, or that same year, KU goes to Wichita State. It should happen every single year. It's stupid that it doesn't. And miss me with though they're a mid-May. No, the American Conference is a good basketball conference. It's a, now granted the American going to be a little bit less without Houston and without Cincinnati. And I understand that. But Wichita State needs to be playing KU every single year. I'm not going to say that, because I believe, I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe Iowa State is required to play Northern Iowa in football. I believe. Because they play each other every year. I don't know if they have to, like it's a rule. But anytime you have, because some people say, well, they need to make it a law that KU, K-State, and Wichita State have to play. That's stupid. Don't get the government involved in anything because they get it wrong. All right. You should be able to figure it out on yourself. But KU, K-State, Wichita State should play every single year. And I like this. I think this is fantastic. Started out at T-Mobile Center, just like you did with Missouri. That was supposed to be, but then COVID and everything like that. So I'm glad this is happening. We'll get a quick timeout. Coming up next, we'll finish things off with the mic drop.
WIDW Topeka FM 104.9.
So you just gonna drop the mic on? Boom! Drop the mic.
Boom, mic drop.
Drop mic, we're out.
Finishing up this edition of Mic'd Up. Alrighty, what do you got? What's your mic drop, Kyle?
I'll keep it very simple. My mic drop. Royals, don't make Fulton sad.
I don't think Fulton can be sad right now.
Don't ruin his vacation by starting off terribly with a new series.
Real quick, should a baseball team win-loss record when they are 18-41 ruin your vacation?
For most people, it shouldn't. I can't say it won't with Fulton, though.
That's so true.
Play it safe, Royals. Don't let him down.
That's so true. If there is one guy whose crappy, terrible baseball team loses 5 in a row, let's say they lose every game. They get swept by Miami off Thursday and lose. Who do they play on Friday? Who do they got on Friday? Hold on, let me look at the schedule here. Who do they got here? They've got Baltimore, right? All on the road. They lose. They lose these 4 games. That shouldn't affect your vacation. This baseball team sucks. Don't let it affect your vacation. My mic drop is Nyjah Kennedy. That's incredible. What she was able to do at the Women's College World Series, pitched in every single game, allowed just 3 earned runs. That is it. 2 against Oklahoma in one outing, 1 in another. That'll do it here for Mic'd Up. Coming up next, we got 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.